Greetings all, grand rising, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you're joining me from today. My name is Na Amelia Santiamar, and you are tuned into Real Talk, Reshaping Motherhood. Real conversations where we are talking about challenging and reshaping our views about motherhood so that all women, not just those that have given birth, but all women can embrace their maternal qualities, their maternal strengths to improve their own lives and the lives of those around them. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are joining us for the first time, please use a few seconds to just like or follow or subscribe to the platform where you're watching this program from. We'd really appreciate that. And also, do please comment where in the world you are joining us from. It's always good to know who we are connecting to from across the world. So, as I said, welcome, welcome. This is Real Talk Reshaping Motherhood. And if you're joining us for the first time again, we are this program is brought to you in collaboration between Speak Up and Empower, and it's Speak Up and Empower Africa focus, as well as Power to Our Mothers Foundation Africa. Speak Up and Empower is an online membership-based and heart-centered community which focuses on building relationships and building communities, businesses that basically allow us to create and share our dreams. That's beautiful. And if you're new to Power to Our Mothers Foundation Africa, that is a non-profit organization registered in Ghana, West Africa, with a growing presence in Zambia, Nigeria, Kenya, all working with women and girls to help them empower themselves on multiple levels, including politically, among other things. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I am pleased to introduce my guest for today, who is the lovely Miss Sylvia Owusu-Nepaul. And greetings, greetings, a mother, midwife, and superstar. So we will go and find out exactly what those things mean to us all there, and me to her. I find out a bit more about her. And because with Ms. Owusu-Nepaul, we are going to be talking about work-life balance, something that's become, I think, increasingly of importance, especially given the pandemic of last year, which we are still living. But what maybe peculiar or unique qualities it brings with for us who are African or Black mothers. But first and foremost, please join me in giving a warm virtual welcome to Ms. Sylvia Owusu-Nepaul. Welcome, my dear.
Hi, I'm Sylvia from England. I hope you're all okay over there, wherever you're coming from. It's wonderful to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. And apologies again to the viewers from my side, just a few technical glitches getting set up and here today. So Sylvia is a mother, a midwife, and a superstar. Why don't can we kick off by just telling our viewers a little bit about you? So you are a mother of how many children?
Yeah, so I'm a mother of 3 children. I've got 2 boys and a girl. My eldest is 24. He was 24 in December. And then my daughter, she's 23 next month. And then I have a 20-year-old. All doing very well, I'm glad to say. Wonderful children.
Wow. Amazing. It's like you don't look old enough to have a 24-year-old.
I do. I feel old enough sometimes.
Wonderful. And so you are a midwife. Tell us a bit more about that aspect of your background.
Okay, so I'm a midwife in Birmingham, England. I have been a midwife for come up nearly 30 years now. And I started, it happened as a passion because my mother was a midwife. She's from Ghana, West Africa. She was a midwife, and also my grandmother was the village midwife. And So I suppose it's all in the genes. And it's been a wonderful experience, actually, being a midwife, because it gives you the chance to be with women all the time. And I think that's something that essentially that we need. Only a woman knows how a woman feels, and especially in labour. So yes, I've been doing that job for quite some time now. As you know, I started out when I was 21 years old, so you can all guess how old I am now.
Seasons for sure.
Well seasoned, yes, yes. As I say, I did my nursing first, and then started off being a midwife. And I've worked in all aspects of midwifery, so I've done majority of my experiences on the labour ward, where the action all happens. But I think what people don't take into consideration is, if somebody asks you if you're a midwife, they all think that you just deliver the babies and that's it. But in actual fact, being a midwife is about being with women during the early stages of labour, making sure that they feel welcome, that they are comfortable in their bodies and comfortable within themselves, leading all the way up to being ready for birth, and then postnatally as well, which is something that my grandmother, as I say, in Ghana, she did, because as many people in Africa will know, that it takes a village to make a child. So she would go around and she would make sure that everybody is okay, that even husbands and that are fed, and everybody's prepared for this baby. And I think that's the massive aspect about midwifery that people don't actually understand. A lot of people just think, the layperson would think, that it's just about delivering the baby, but it's it's 9 months.
Absolutely. And I was going to say that does it even extend beyond that, in terms of to what extent do you deal with or come across women who are who know that they are kind of trying to ready themselves for becoming mothers? Does that come across you? Do you deal with women in that category too?
In the preconceptual care, no, it's not something that I deal with at the moment. But as I've spoken to you before, it is something that I will be dealing with, getting women ready for pregnancy, preparing their bodies and making sure that it's in optimum shape before they get pregnant, to make sure that they're fertile, really.
Yeah, so important. I love what you said about the fact that, women need to be around women. You'd almost think it's, like take it for granted, but in something that is, I would say, so innate, like Mother Nature, the most natural form of things, to be around others who can support
we
that.
gravitate towards one another, whether we have had children or not had children. The fact that we are women, we gravitate towards one another. And so therefore, I think it's really important. And I mean, that came across in my early years, because I was 5 years qualified before I actually had my children. And people actually said to me, well, how can you be a midwife without having children? But if you've still got that level of compassion, that level of empathy, because you are a woman, you can naturally do that.
Fantastic. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's definitely from the Power to Our Mothers Foundation Africa perspective. We refer to all women as either a mother or a mother figure, because
Absolutely.
we don't only birth children, we birth ideas. We do have, even those of us who feel like we don't have a natural maternal instinct, you would be surprised that we are actually designed with that in mind, even though we're not necessarily aware of it. So you may not be mothering children, you may be mothering actually your fellow women. Imagine, like the older ones to the younger ones. So
where do you think they got the idea of Mother Nature?
Exactly. Nothing by coincidence. Thank you. And before we move on to talking about what we're actually talking about tonight, please do tell me, or tell our viewers, about Sylvia Owusu-Nepaul, the superstar, although I know that's not her name.
Okay, right. So Sylvia Owusu-Nepaul, a superstar, is Sass Brown superstar. And from 2016, I think, 2016 is when I decided that I'm going to metamorphosize, birthing yet again, of course, into something different. And I've always loved singing. Singing's been a passion of mine for a long, long time, but I just never really cultivated it as much as I probably should have done. And so I took singing to a different level, and now I do a Tina Turner tribute. Obviously, COVID at the moment has quelled that for a little while, but yeah, I go around the countries. I've been over to France, I've been to Northern Ireland, and I've been nationwide up and down England doing my Tina Turner tribute, and have been described as the powerhouse.
Ooh.
I know. It's quite nice.
Yeah, you'd have to be taking on Tina. It's like, oh, I definitely have to check out some of your performances. That's amazing. So coming back to what we are talking about for the issue today, for anyone that's joining us just now. So today in our Real Talk, Reshaping Motherhood. Welcome, Mama Grand Rising. Thanks for joining us. Today we are talking about work-life balance. And as I had said, at least from my perspective, when I was still in the UK, it definitely came up a lot, or the conversation came up a lot again, because we had talked about it before. How do we achieve, this balance, and especially being busy women, busy mothers? But in the context of the pandemic, then it came up because, some people who could work from home, even then, they were finding that they still have to try and find this, strike this work-life balance. So what is it that today we're talking specifically about work-life balance and how that affects us as Black or African mothers. So why is it that is, what can I say, a passion of yours to speak about? Why is it that is, something that's close to your heart?
I think at the end of the day, as a woman, it's very difficult to achieve that work-life balance because you are three people in one, aren't you? You are the mother, you're the wife, and you're also, well, for many of us, working. And I say that loosely, but it can be in several, because you can actually be going out to work, but also the work within the home is work, isn't it? So I think in order for us to achieve that balance, it's really quite hard to do. I mean, for example, when I was thinking about this show yesterday, I had a prime example. My husband is from Jamaica and is very, what I say, what's the word? I have to say quietly because that's at the door. No, he's very set in his ways. And on a Sunday, it tends to be like Sunday dinner, rice and peas, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And yesterday was a day when we didn't have any peas in the house, strangely. So I said, well, we're not going to have rice and peas today. Well, the look on his face, there's that certain amount of expectation that I think comes with being a Black woman. And I kind of feel that we've sold ourselves to, how would I describe it? We kind of sold ourselves to being a slave to the cooker, a slave to the traditions that go around. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Angela. Is that something that you would agree with? Or?
I would say that it's something that we need to take responsibility for. I know that it's something that many would say that, well, it's the men. The men have relegated us to being stuck in the kitchen. And there is a balance there, because I do come from the perspective that, we create our own realities. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's your fault that you find where you are, but we do have a responsibility as to if we stay there. And so when you look across the board at us as a collective, as women, and you have women that are, going through it, they're very self-sufficient, they're independent, they're ambitious and everything at one end of the spectrum. And then you look at the other end of the spectrum of our women who are just struggling to meet the bare necessities of life, feeding their families, feeding, clothing, housing, educating their families. And this does not necessarily depend on whether the woman is rich or wealthy or whether she's poor. The two ends can actually still have the same struggles. So there is something, I believe there is a responsibility in us where we have maybe fed into and are still enabling, this
Yes.
position where we are undervalued, because not our fault, but the reality we're living is that there are places in which we are undervaluing ourselves.
And yes,
So
and I absolutely agree with you entirely on that, because I think we have made, as you said, made our own reality, so that we feel that we have definitely got to make that Sunday dinner. And in response to my husband, I said, there are some people who don't eat on a Sunday, and is your belly full? And he said yes. So then I started thinking to myself, well, why do we necessarily? I've been with my husband for 26 years now, and there's probably,
oh,
unless we've been abroad or something, I think there's one time that I can remember when we've not had a Sunday dinner. One of us has always been cooking, tends to be me. And I think that, to get that work-life balance, we've got to be able to look at things from a different angle, in actual fact, and not be that slave to the kitchen. Because, there are many other things that we become. I think I spoke, I don't know whether it was you with yourself, or whether it was somebody else, where we're saying that we do choose our own reality, and we can either choose to stay within that, or we can make things better for ourselves. Because
yeah.
oftentimes we will do something at work and we will do it and we'll continue doing it. But I think it was you was saying we don't have to do it, but we get into that cycle where we just do it, and then we moan about what we're doing. So that is something
Yes.
where we can choose to change, or we can stay in that reality, that perceived reality.
Yeah, no, I remember that discussion we were having, and
Mm,
it was from the perspective of um, how naturally or how quickly, and definitely I think still the majority of us, we get into this role of being, the helper. We want to help. We want to, or we believe we're expected to help everybody, and
yes.
then because we're now into that, in that routine and in that place of helping everybody, there then comes a point where we are over helping, as in we are doing things for people that they have not asked us to do. And
Absolutely.
then we can become resentful because they're not appreciative of it. But then it's
Hmm.
like, but you have to come back to the position, but did they ask you to do the things that they're doing for you? And
Mm,
sometimes and you just think, actually, no, they didn't ask. I just thought it would be helpful. Well, if I thought it would be helpful, I can't force my help on somebody, and
mm,
or then force somebody to be grateful for something that they didn't ask for. So it's like we're tying ourselves up in
in
knots.
knots, yeah. And what's very interesting about that as well is you'll find in England here we have a lot of people, a lot of black nurses, and because of that inverted commas nurturing aspect of ourselves that we have, we also bring that to work with us, and so that's where people become dependent upon us, and they believe that we're supposed to do this, and we continue to do this, and we end up burning ourselves out. And so that,
Yes.
we've got to balance an equilibrium where that is concerned, because it's as you quite rightfully say, we take on that role, we get fed up of it, and it's probably of our own making. It's probably of our own making.
And what do you personally think about, this whole concept of work-life balance? And the reason I ask about that is because I feel that sometimes we live in a very compartmentalized way. And I'm guilty of this. Like, I put my hands
Yes.
up. I've been in a space where, yes, I am, I guess, I am feeling like, okay, I'm doing work now. And then there is a time to be mummy. And so then what it was is that I'm not necessarily involving my children or letting them know about the work that I'm doing, like there's
Mm.
separate things, but it's like there isn't work part of life. What do you think about that?
I think really what life is very well. I wouldn't say difficult. I guess we make the difficulties ourselves. But I think we to get an absolute work life balance, we need to be very regimented in actually how we do it, in the sense that we're only supposed to be at work for 7.5 hours, or if you're on a long shift of 12-hour shifts, we need to make sure that after those shifts, we could, if you worked in a factory, it would be you clock in and you clock out. But when you're doing other jobs, like if you're running your own business or if you're working in maternity, what have you, you tend to go that little step further, which then starts to encroach onto your home life. And so I
Yes.
think that we have to be quite regimented in how we actually structure our days. And I don't, when I say structure, I don't mean you draw a line here, because obviously sometimes it's going to be like, for me, if the head's crowning, I can't leave it there, do you know? But I think at the end of the day, we have to definitely say, right, I start at 7:30, I finish at 3:30, and then I'm going, and the rest of the time is my time. Because a lot of the time, I mean, and I, as I say, I'm guilty of this myself. I go to work at 7:30. I'm actually not supposed to start till 9, but I want to get some things done, and then
Yeah.
I finish at 4. When in actual fact, my 8 hours is up, or 7.5 hours is up at 3:30, and sometimes I'll be there at 6 o'clock, and then I've got myself into a little bit of a rut, and I think, well, I didn't get this done, and I didn't get that done, because I'm caring for people along the way, and so I go
Yeah.
home, and that then encroaches on my family life. So getting the balance is sometimes very difficult. But I just feel that we've got to learn to switch off, which is very hard in the caring profession. But I do think it's a 24-hour service, and so therefore we've got to learn to let go. I think that's what the crux of it is, really. We've got to learn to let go, because in actual fact, we've got maybe an hour's journey coming to work, an hour's journey coming home, and that encroaches onto your work-life balance as well. So instead of being a 7.5 hour day, it actually becomes a 9.5 hour day, and then you come in tired, and it just goes on from there. You go to bed, and then you're not enjoying your time, and your children are not enjoying your time, and so it's about structuring your day, I feel.
Do you think, because you mentioned something about switching off, do you think as women we actually ever switch off?
No, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I mean, as women, maybe, well, no, I don't think you ever do. I think when you were young and you were a teenager, perhaps you might switch off then and lie in your bed till all 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Wonderful. As a person who's a person who's working, there's always something going on. And I'm sure the men will say exactly the same thing. There's always something that's going on in your brain. Oh, I've got to do this tomorrow. I've got to do that. I've got to do this. And then when you add the extended bit of your children and your family, or your spouse or boyfriend or what have you, if you have got that person, there are little bits inside of you that you might think that you're switching off, but you're not. So like I say, I might go to work and then I think, oh, I'm going home early today, but what am I going to cook? Because you've got to feed for that, you've got to make sure that the family are fed. And then you think to yourself, if you've got younger children, I've got to get the children to get bed, I've got to do the homework, I've got to do this. So you don't ever switch off. And by the time you go to bed, you're shattered. And if you're like me, I mean, I woke up this morning at 2 o'clock thinking, oh, I must do this, and this. And that was before I got up to go and do my shift today. So I'm not sure that we completely switch off, and it's about finding a key to actually how we do that.
Yeah, I will ask you how, if you have found one. For me, I think it fluctuates, because there is always I would say always, but there's often the need to when you're used to being active and busy, it can actually be difficult to sit still, is my personal experience. And I have friends like this, but literally it's I remember times I traveled, and like if my boys have gone and they're staying with somebody else, and I know for the initial few days, I literally, if I sit down, I'm literally thinking, but shouldn't I be doing something? I'm sure something needs to be doing, and I have to kind of condition myself. It's like, no, I'm entitled, I'm allowed to sit down and do nothing. you know.
Yeah.
But it literally is just like in the same way when you go on holiday, you have to unwind yourself to be like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is now I can relax. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I find personally, and I don't know what your experience is, you can share, but I find that it's kind of an ongoing up and down. As in, it's not like I remember that all the time. There will be times when I get busy, and if I don't remind myself, I at least am surrounded by people saying, don't you think you should, slow down? Yeah, it's time for
Yeah.
you to take a break.
Mm.
Which for me is very important because I don't always necessarily see it. So it's good that I've got
Mm.
my entourage. It's like, okay, you need
Mm.
to take time out. How does that work for you?
I think that, yeah, I agree with you. And I always say to myself that I must take time out. And so sometimes what I actually do is, I mean, I'm lucky that my children are able to cook and do things for themselves right now. But I just go for walks within nature because that it kind of regrounds me. Um,
Mhm.
Initially, I did try that, all right, I'm going to have a soak in the bath, but that is the time when everybody, my bathroom's only small, but everybody can fit in there. I don't know how they do it, but they can all fit in the bathroom and everybody, oh, the phone's ringing and this and that and the other. So I oftentimes have to take myself completely out of the house and let
Yes.
people fend for themselves because I think also what happens is you can be in danger of them leaning on you so much that they don't develop their own
Yes.
personality, not
Absolutely.
personalities, but they don't develop their own ways because they're leaning on you so much. And they
Yeah.
are all very capable of doing it, but
Mhm.
sometimes we just overdo it for them, really.
Absolutely. I was literally just thinking, yeah, we enable them so much that we actually disable or dispower them
Right, right.
because I've seen it, experienced it. It's like, you do so much for somebody, and then when we get to that point where it's like, okay, I've had enough now, they should do it themselves. It's like you do it, and then it becomes obvious. But how do they do it? Because you're the one that's been doing it all the time for them. So how do you expect them to just get up and be like, yeah, I can do it for myself?
And
So
then
I
you
think
find
that's where
yourself
we
standing over the cooker.
enable.
Don't do it like that. Don't do it like that.
That's that's another conversation for another time, especially when it comes to the co-parenting and because in our, what can I say? I guess because we want to mother as well as we do, we will a lot of the time we will feel that the way that we do it is the right way.
Mm.
Um,
And one of
meantime,
the things, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
So one of the things that always amuses me is that so we're talking about this work life balance, and we're essentially moaning that this doesn't get done and the children don't do this but my mom is 77 coming up in April, and
Mm,
I can go to her house and I will still be her child, and
yeah,
she will still do everything for me that she would have
yeah,
done when I was younger. So you never give that up. And in fact, I have my children saying to me, you can't let Nanny do that because she's old. And I said, she's my mother. She's the same as
eh,
what I am, you are to me. And they can't quite get that, which is really quite strange. But the fact is, I mean, if somebody said to my mother, who is 77, have you got any
mhm,
children? She will always say yes, because we will
mhm.
always be their babies. Look at how old,
Exactly.
look at how old she is. My eldest brother is nearly 57, right?
Yeah.
And my youngest brother is 41. We're grown people, but
Mm,
we're still children. And I don't know whether it's something in what we actually say, children, my kids,
mhm.
that still makes them your baby. Do you know what I mean? So you will always be in that nurturing, you will always be that nurturer.
Absolutely, we're mothers for life. I have the
Absolutely.
exact same experience with my mother. It's like we get to a stage where this kind of role reversal it tries to happen. As in, we're worried about them. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Go do the shopping, this and the other. I mean, they're able,
Yes.
but
Hmm.
we think that they should be doing less. But like
Yeah.
you said, we will always be their babies, and it's I guess it's heartwarming, and because I just think about my own mother, where she will tell me things. I'm like, wow, she will be telling me that, yeah, because I see the way that you have to run after these boys and do this and do that, and it's like, take your times. And thinking, oh, bless my mother, you know, and that when I get to that age, that I'm sure I'll still be doing, you know, and acting the same, you know, the same way. So when as we're talking here, like we realize that, we recognize that, it just reminds me of what you said, as in, not necessarily how we do it, but we must find a way, whether the times that we can remember to do it ourselves, or we have our little cheerleaders or our entourage to remind us that we do need to take time out for ourselves, because, you know, we're playing the long game, you know, people are depending on us. And what I say is, you know how in this society we've got to a place where, and this can be culturally as well. I would say, especially for Black or African mothers, it's like culturally, it's almost like the more selfless you are, the better a mother you are regarded.
Yeah.
Do you relate to that?
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that is something that is culturally a Black thing. So, as I say, my husband exactly the same in Jamaica. Um, the woman is seen to give absolutely everything, and it's kind of become expected, really.
Mm. Yeah, like this. I would say unwilling martyrdom. But there must come a time, I think, that we realize that actually, no, it's back to front. And we know this, you know, we know that when we travel, if we're flying and you have the safety protocols and things, and what do they say? If there's turbulence, oxygen masks will fall from the ceiling. And what do they tell you to do? They tell you, put your own mask on first. You know,
Yeah,
we'll be
you
thinking,
know what
no,
you'll do. You put your children's on first.
yeah, but the thing is, that is firstly, it is an instinctive thing, but logically, we understand it's like, yes, you may go and put your children's mask on first, but what we forget is that if we are not there, how long will they survive without us?
Yeah.
So it's like the more. So what I say to my sisters now is, the more people you are responsible for, whether you're related to them or not, whether they're your children or not, but the more people, the more responsibility you have to look after other people. That's exactly the same extent, if not more, that we have to like take responsibility for looking after ourselves, because we are
Absolutely.
holding so many people. We're holding so many people, and we need our sisters to remind us of that. Because as for me, I think we all get into that place where we'll get back to our busyness. We're looking after everyone, and it's a practice. Like I know sisters that are much more practiced and like they've got this down pat, and it's like, no, that is part of their thing. And others of us, like I said, I think it's an up and down. It's a fluctuation.
I think it's very important that we I think recognition is one of the things for sure, and I think we need to once we recognize that I wouldn't say it's a problem, but once we recognize what we're actually doing to ourselves, and if you realize that potentially it's not necessarily the best thing for you to do, you have to look after yourself so that you can look after others. And once we start to realize that and loose go of some of those I would say traditions, really. Once we lose go of some of those, then perhaps we can move on. And I mean, women are we rule the world. Let's be right about it, because you know there's an old saying, isn't there? Behind every great man, there's an absolutely amazing woman. And if we don't take care of ourselves, then we can't be there to provide and make sure that we sustain future generations. So I think, yeah, it's very important to make sure of that. But it's something that we've got to get back into our psyche, so that it's we definitely empower. I mean, if my daughter was on this call now, she'd be saying, I'm not having a man who's telling me this. I'm not having a, and I think the younger generation actually, especially because there's, I feel the pressure that they have got is a lot more different to what we have here. So I think they actually do take time, because they recognise a lot of the things that perhaps my generation don't recognise. And I think kudos to them actually, because they do take time out. I feel sometimes far too much time out, but they do take time out, and they look after themselves.
Mm, I think that is really important. I think that I don't have older children, so I can't speak from that perspective. But when I look at maybe some of the younger people, not from a judgmental perspective, but I always have this caution in my mind that is around even that being balanced out. Yes, we
Mm,
absolutely must take time for ourselves, but the caution is around the whole concept of, this so-called independence that we deserve and we must have. And sometimes when it goes to the extreme where it's like, I don't need anybody for anything, and we lose that concept of, yeah, but we're human beings, we're naturally,
yeah,
with other people. Do you see what I mean? So how
yeah,
we separate yeah, like whether there is such things as toxic independence, but literally like we are an island, as opposed to, no, I can be with somebody, but I'm still an individual whilst I'm with somebody. I've not morphed
yeah.
into, I haven't completely lost myself whilst I'm with
Mm.
that other person.
Yeah, 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 and I think that is a thing that black. Well, I don't know. It might be everybody that does that. I don't know, but they kind of become codependent upon one another, and this one can't survive without that one. And this is why you often see that when people have been together for God knows how long, and one spouse or whatever dies, and the other one dies very quickly afterwards because
Yeah,
they've not had that element of independence for each other, and they tend to lose they become almost one unit, and they just flow, don't they? They're inseparable,
yes,
and yeah, I do think that it's very important that you take time out to definitely be yourself, and because before you met your spouse or whatever, you were an individual, and people
yeah,
they forget that along the way.
yes. So I would add that to your the breakdown. It's like, yes, in terms of balancing everything, yes, there is the mother, there's the wife, there's a worker, and like you
Mm,
said before, all of those things, there's the woman, the female individual human being, that
mm,
has her own interests, her own dreams, her own ambitions, and she still gets to, I say she, yeah, she still gets to, or that's where I want us to be, that she still gets to have those things. She doesn't have to sacrifice those things for the sake of her family. She can actually have all those things. And I think that
yes.
comes back to the balance, the balance or the harmony,
Mm.
finding a way that we create space for all those things, because it is possible.
And yeah, in
But I
actual
think it's up
fact,
to us.
that's one of the reasons why, as you call me, I became a superstar, because I kind of realized, although yes, I do the Sunday dinner and all of that, the things that I wanted to do as a younger person, and obviously I had my career and the rest of it, but the things that I wanted to do, I felt like they were still burning inside me, and I thought, you know what, I still need to do these things for myself. And that's what I would
Yeah.
always say to everybody. Remember that you are yourself, and anything that you don't go to bed or, lie on your deathbed thinking, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that, because you can still
Mm,
do it. Whether you're part of a marital union or whatever it might be, don't give up on that thought. Always be that person that you want to be. And like I say, although it is hard, sort of like having a work, especially in this COVID time, having a work-life balance in my profession anyway, I know that in
mm,
time coming up, I'll be singing again, and I know time before I'll be singing again. So that to me is yes. So I keep practicing, I keep on going, and that keeps it, that kind of keeps me sane, and that keeps me as an
mm,
individual. And
yeah.
and even if it's somebody who wants to go running, if somebody wants to go walking, if they want to do flower arranging or whatever it is, their passion, I think that they should always pursue it. You never know what it's going to bring you. And I think, some people's passions, they deem them to be really silly little things, but that's what makes them individuals. And so they should always pursue that part of your work-life balance, most definitely.
Absolutely. No, I echo that 1000%. It doesn't matter what other people think. You know, like Sylvia said, it's like that unique thing. Yeah, it's unique to you. Nobody else has to do it. But the point is, you know, how does it make you feel about yourself? For my thing, mine is singing as well, but not necessarily the performing. It's literally feeling. It's literally the vibration of my voice through my body, and you know, it will remind me of things or what have you. And everybody has the right to that. You know, you don't have to make a choice between whether you have that and you have the other things. It's like, well, no. And actually, the more that we can have those things that are for us, then we are more ourselves, and then everyone gets to benefit from who we really are, as opposed to who we think we're supposed to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. Absolutely, 100% agree with that, because I think you can be in danger of becoming what people expect of you as opposed to what you actually are yourself. And I think I 100% agree with you there.
Yeah, wonderful. So work-life balance, there's not a one size fits all as to what
No,
that looks like. From what we're saying, what we are saying is that you as an individual must be part of that equation. It can't just be about, or let me rephrase that. It is not healthy or empowering if the only parts of that equation are you as a mother or mother figure, you as a partner, wife, spouse, whatever you want to call it, you as an employee or a business, you know, as a worker of some kind. Um, the bit that's missing is the bit that actually powers everything else. It's like, who are you, the individual, without all those other parts of you, which are important parts, but those parts wouldn't exist if the individual wasn't there in the first place.
absolutely.
So,
And what I think is very sorry.
no, go ahead. I was going to say, so how can we make sure that even if it's like 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, whatever your march, some people only need, you know, for them it's singing in the shower and then they're good to go for the whole day. You know, it's whatever that thing is for you, that we need to try and make and create the space for.
And that's what I was going to echo, actually,
Sorry,
because
Sylvia, you were saying.
so that's what I was going to echo, in fact, because when you're able to do that thing that makes you feel a whole lot better, you can kind of almost dream big. So I'm speaking from my own experience, and yeah, I remember my first gig, and I thought, oh my God, but then I dreamed of doing festivals, and then I got to do them, and it actually somehow or other increases you as an individual, and so you put all your efforts into other things because you know that you've dreamt big about one thing, and so if you actually put this amount of effort into something else, you can make bigger things happen. And I think that that's
Yeah,
very important, and it's also very important for your family as a unit to see that things can happen if you dream or look at things on that scale.
that is so important. Yes, I agree 1,000%. Not only from the perspective of, not only from the perspective of you leading by example as to the
Mm,
art of the possible in somebody else's life. I would add to that how important it is for our children and our partners, but our children especially, for them to see that mum is not just mum, she's whatever her name is, who has her own dreams, ambitions, and things, and she wears all these different hats, because then when they go out of the world, they don't have this narrow view of what a woman is or should be. I think that's
yeah,
so important.
yeah. And it enriches them as well, because it gives them the creativity to be able to do things also, because they realize that the world is not this small. If they want to do this, they can do this, and it then everything becomes limitless, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. I could be on here for another hour. Work-life balance will come back again, but we definitely will have you back again on to speak about more about your work and
Yeah.
midwifery, especially considering mothers and our experience as Black mothers, because our experience is somewhat unique.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for joining me today. Do you have any last message or last words for our viewers that you'd like to share?
You want me to sing you a song? No, I'm only joking.
I'll put you in.
No, I'm only joking. No, it's been wonderful to be here, and I hope that people look at their work-life balance, realize their worth, and even if they've not realized their worth, start to think about you as an individual, because you're worth it. At the end of the day, we are mothers, we are women, we empower one another, and all I want is that everybody can feel how I feel, how Na feels as well. It's wonderful. It really is.
Thank you so much. Yes. So whatever that balance looks like for you, find it. And I would say, have your little, like I say, your cheerleaders. Whether it's a partner, whether it's a friend, to help you maintain that. Because there are times that life gets rough, and all that stuff goes out the window. So sometimes you do need a little nudge. It's like, okay, need to slow down. You do realize that you're running at 200 miles an hour, right? Sometimes we need that encouragement as well. So thank you very much for joining us for this week's Reshaping Motherhood. Join us again same time next week, 6 p.m. GMT. And until then, enjoy your week. And Sylvia, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, I'm now Amelia Asante Marks signing off. See you next week.